Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast. We are not quite into the month of May. We are rounding out April with a very special, very intimate one-on-one episode.
It's for the boys only. And by for the boys only, I mean, ladies, this is a dream show with you guys. That was creepy. This is for the boys only. We're going back to for the boys only.
This episode is for the boys, a sausage party, whatever you want to call it. Techtic and Illeagle, your boys. Shout out to us. Nerdbomber, unfortunately, unable to join us for this episode, but we still got a great episode lined up. And I was just talking to Techtic about last time we did this. This is a fun fact. This is a behind the scenes. I don't know if we've said this on the show before. Maybe it makes us look bad, but it's too late. I'm already talking about it. Last time Techtic and I did...
This was probably over 2 years ago. Like, it was a while.
This was a long time ago. Nerdbomber does not miss very many episodes, if any. She missed one. I don't remember why. I think she was sick or something. I think it was something like not very interesting like that. I think she was sick. And so we did an episode by ourselves. And I don't remember why. It was my fault. I know it was my fault. We recorded an episode that was, standard like hour and change episode. And we got to the end. And I think I thought I was recording with my phone or something. I don't know. Long story short, I didn't record the right way. So we had to do it again. And we recorded 2 hour-long episodes in a row in one night.
Yeah, this was pre-mixer era too, so we didn't have a USB backup or anything.
Pre-mixer, we had no backup, so we had to do it all again. I remember we were like, and the episode, I'm sure you guys remember, it was probably great. Me and Techtic, by the time we did the second one that eventually went to air, we had it all down. We had the timing down. We had the jokes down. We knew what we were going to say, so we just said it again, and that was great. But I don't want to do it again. So I can confirm right now I am recording, and Techtic, I know you're recording as well. So we're going to get it in one take today. That's the goal. I think it's an easy one for us to meet, and we're going to have a good time. We have 3 fantastic news topics today. We're going to be talking about Netflix, and in particular, their animation. Some of their animated shows have been canceled. We're going to talk about why. You've been hearing a lot about Netflix lately. You know what we're talking about. We're going to be talking about a new game that was announced coming May 19th, which is very soon, DeadCraft. I want to talk about that a little bit, an upcoming action RPG. And we're going to talk about a law being floated across the pond. Not like it's not floating across the pond to England, but like they're floating it over there. A law related to what you can and cannot do behind the wheel of a self-driving car. So lots to dig into. Also, we'll note at the top of the episode, if for some reason you only tune in for our quiz segments, first of all, that'd be interesting to me. I love the quizzes, but like if you're skipping the rest, that's kind of strange. But we're not going to be doing a quiz today because it's a one-on-one sausage party. This one's for the boys. And boys, I guess, don't like quizzes. I guess that's what we're going with. So
apparently it's trendy that boys like breaking ice. So unfortunately, we don't have a shattering sound. I'm not sure why this is a trend on TikTok, but hey, if you're cool with it not being here, then let's continue.
We like breaking ice.
Yeah, that's like a weird
I didn't know that.
TikTok trends. We like taking big chunks of ice and smashing them.
Okay. I can't do it now. I'll have to work on it. That's not a talent that I have immediately available. So, right. There you go. So let's dive in here. Let's talk a little bit about, the UK. The United Kingdom, they have self-driving cars just as we do. As reported by the BBC, the highway code is being updated. An update will arrive this summer that addresses what is and is not legal in automated vehicles, also known as self-driving cars. There's a draft amendment that says that watching television from a car's infotainment apparatus, which is, if you've seen a Tesla, it's basically just, a screen that's kind of like around where the instrument panel is, will be legal in situations where automated driving itself is legal. There's a couple things about this that before we discuss, I want to get into. Using your phone or handheld technology is still going to be illegal. This is an interim measure that, it may not be available until 2025. It may be available as early as next year. So nothing is for sure yet here. So here's the thing for me. Like, I love the idea of us moving closer to a world in which automated driving is not just available, but is commonplace, right? Because I'm not the kind of person, I'm not going to be on the bleeding edge of this thing. I think because of anxiety, but also just because it's not proven yet, right?
It's peculiar to me because I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to basically incentivize like, hey, we're loosening the ropes a little bit. You can watch on this screen, but this screen is also connected to your car so that you can get notifications if, hey, you got to take over. And I get that, and that's cool and all. But to your point, it's just not going to be there. And first and foremost, it absolutely needs to be encouraged because there's the whole accordion theory. I might have talked about this on the show, but a slight braking of one car turns into a complete traffic stop, 20 miles back based on this ever-growing accordion effect. And so something like autonomous cars needs to take off. But until they actually start doing things from an infrastructure standpoint where you can have, these are self-driving car lanes only, and then they can just fully take a nap because it's only self-driving cars, it's completely isolated from the rest of traffic, it's not going to take off.
Right. That's the goal. Is I do think when you say what's the ultimate goal of self-driving cars, taking a nap, I think is the number one goal for me. Think about the typical, American use of cars. Like for me, at least, the main time I use my car most of the time
is to take a nap.
It's driving to and from work, and like in the morning when I drive to work. If you gave me the choice of would you rather be watching television during this time or sleeping, I'm going to choose sleeping every single time. But like television, being able to watch TV is like, it's a step in the right direction. There's no doubt. But there's also I also think there's something different here that's in the works of like human psychology almost of like, I got my driver's license and I've had it for 10 plus years. And you condition yourself, and any American driver or any driver in the world, I guess, is going to be conditioned to when they're in their car and the car is moving, you're going to be focused on the road, right? And like people text and drive, people do other things. Like, yeah, people let their focus slip while driving, but watching TV is a different level of focus. But like, if I was given the ability to watch TV in my car right now,
it would be the most anxious car drive ever.
Exactly. I'm going to be looking at the screen to watch the TV, but then every 5 seconds, I'm going to be looking at the road, and I'm going to miss what's going on the TV, and I'll look back at the TV and say, what did I miss? And it's going to be this ping pong thing that might just be more stressful than anything else. Whereas, like, if I am comfortable enough with the car to close my eyes and go to sleep, like, I think there's a different brain wavelength there. Like, I think I would have an easier time doing that than like being awake, being aware, and like not just constantly looking up at the road, So I don't know. And it also like, it feels a little farcical to say you can watch TV, but you can't use your phone, because in so many ways and in so many circumstances, what is a phone but a little TV? Like, that's a little minimizing of what phones do, but like, people watch YouTube.
I don't want to be, distrusting of everything ever, but in part, could it be, the car companies sell based on, hey, you'll get this notification if you need to pay attention, but the other side of it is now you have to buy all these apps. And is there a little bit of faking data so much to force them to get a little bit more money out of you? I don't know. But personally, at the end of the day, until it's a completely disassociative experience, it'll never take off. I don't care what laws you get creative with. This to me, it seems like a step in the right direction, but it's not the incentives. The true incentive is right. We're all working day in, day out to earn that scratch. The key incentives are, hey, we're going to give you a grant or whatever. What are they called?
Stipend? Per diem?
Sure. Whatever companies give to incentivize buying these things, give that to customers and let them sleep. And you got yourself a thing.
Right.
And also, to another side note, why wouldn't, like, say a billionaire that wants to get in on the ground floor just build a roadway? And
well, right. I think that's one of the smartest things that you said. Not ever, but like in relation to this conversation. I think when you put a bunch of self-driving cars on a road and don't allow regular driving cars on a road, my trust, maybe ironically, but my trust goes way up. Because like, if you think about it too, like mixing self-driving cars and human driving cars is a recipe for disaster, because self-driving cars know what kind of margins they need to like make it through an intersection before another car goes, or like make a turn in a certain amount of time. Whereas humans might look at that and say, oh, they don't have enough time, or, oh, they have too much time, or, oh, I'm going to go because they're not going to go yet. Like there's a human element that has to be on both sides. Otherwise, things will happen. And if you take that human element away from both sides, then I think
things will happen. You will get non-self-driving cars trying to drive in the we'll call it the
robot lane.
No, the AOV lane, the awake OV occupancy vehicle lane. Okay, so you all know about the HOV lane, the high occupancy vehicle lane, where if you have two or more people in your vehicle, you're allowed to go in it because it's theoretically reducing the amount of cars that are on the road at a given time. The diamond lane. Yeah. That said, fines are at a minimum of $100 for getting pinged. So even the state can benefit from fining. If jerks want to be jerks, let them be jerks. Fine the snot out of them. It's a win-win for everybody, except for the infrastructure, but whatever.
I think that's I think you're right. I mean, what the heck? We almost talked about Elon Musk today, but that got left on the cutting room floor. Elon Musk clearly has more money than he knows what to do with. Why doesn't he? I mean, he's Tesla's his thing. Make a Tesla-only road. That then people can say, and that's something for his company to tout too, by the way. Say, last year, there were only 2 accidents total on all the Tesla roads. Oh. And there were 10,000 accidents total on the non-Tesla road. It's the kind of thing that would build confidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Oh, I couldn't.
I mean, I doubt it would be that.
That's probably the smartest things you've ever said on this show.
Yeah, we're big brain when Nerdbomber's not around. When Nerdbomber's not around, we crank the highbrow way up.
It's because she casts the shadow with her big brain.
Yeah.
And we're just intimidated.
Big brain content only here. Yeah, I think we feel a certain, I don't know.
We could just whip them out when she's not here. Our big brains.
Yeah, our big brains, right. Nothing else. So yeah, no word on when this law will actually hit yet, but be on the lookout for this. I think you raise a good point too about, these infotainment things in the cars. How do you watch TV on them? It seems like a great opportunity for Tesla or any of these companies to price gouge the crap out of consumers and say oh, you want to watch Netflix in the car because it's allowed now? That'll be $10,000.
Sucks to be you.
10,000 pounds because this is in the United Kingdom we're talking about. But that's it does feel that way a little bit too. Maybe we're just distrusting, but Netflix is probably
which, by the way, it shouldn't be a Tesla only road. It should be a self-driving car only road. I don't want it to be like this elitist group of people driving cars only on the road now.
Let me quiz you for a second because I don't know. I'm sure there is one. Name one other self-driving car besides the Tesla.
I thought Honda came up with one.
I don't know. If they did, I don't know about it. That's kind of my point. Is that's kind of Tesla's thing, of that and the EV stuff. But if Honda came up with one, and the self-driving thing is I bet Honda has one that's it self-drives on the highway, and then which I get that that's still impressive, but it's not the same, Sorry, I just slammed on Honda for really no reason, but I want companies to do better on this, and I want them to come out with maybe they should combine forces and come up with a self-driving car only roadway.
GM, Toyota, Mercedes.
Oh, you Googled it?
Yeah, there's tons. There's tons of options.
They need to market themselves better. And also, are we sure those aren't concept cars? I bet they're concept cars. You can't actually have one. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll look into it. But do you think that self-driving cars should allow their drivers to watch TV while they're being driven? Let us know. At Online Warriors 1 is our main show account. At OW Legal86 is me. At OW Techtic is my guy Techtic over there. You can also tweet it at OW Nerdbomber.
Just to throw her off
confuse the crap out of her. Yeah, just confuse the crap out of her. She knows what we're talking about today.
Reach out to her and say, hey, we listened to them and they whipped it out. And she's going to be like, what? They did what?
She had a hand in selecting these topics. She probably decided that these were the ones that we could handle without her. I don't know. You have to check in with her to figure out what her thought process was there.
But well, you picked the topics. I concurred with the topics. Would you black out there?
It's a democratic process through and through at the Online Warriors. Let's move on. Let's move to video games. So I want to talk about DeadCraft. So DeadCraft is the game I teased earlier, coming out May 19th, 2022, launching on PC via Steam, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and Nintendo Switch. And on that note, so this is a post-apocalyptic world, upcoming RPG. action. I don't know what you call the perspective. It's obviously not first person. It's not third person. It's kind of like top down sort of thing. What platform? First of all, are you interested in this game? And second of all, if you are, what platform? For me, this is a Switch game. That's where I'm going with this. This is a through and through Switch game.
I disagree.
For me. Okay, well that's good. That's what podcasts are all about. I want your unbridled take.
This is through and through a PC game.
Okay, explain.
I mean, this feel and that type of view is all of the games I've played on PC. And specifically, what this game reminded me of is a less cute Plants vs. Zombies. Especially with
there's zombies.
Well, yeah. But one, there was the art that actually showed a plant growing out of a zombie's head. Two, there were pea shooter zombies, which pea shooters are literally in Plants vs. Zombies. But there's also, you're not just building a wall of plants, so it's not fully Plants vs. Zombies, but there is some key indicators that remind you of it. So you take that and you combine it with, do you guys remember the game Prototype? Do you remember that game?
I do. I never played it. I always wanted to.
When he had like the mutated arms and he was slashing and dashing. Yeah. Oh yeah, that was Prototype vibes through and through. But like I said, those kind of top-down views, they remind me of the strategy PC games that I play.
Well, so they got me in a mindset. This trailer, I guess, got me in a mindset. At first, I was like, okay, so it looks kind of like Borderlands, which I think there are certain commonalities there. It's a little cartoony. It's a little irreverent, not quite in the way that Borderlands or like Tiny Tina's Wonderlands would be, but it has a little bit of that going for it. But it also really reminded me of like old Flash games on computer. Like there was this one game I played the crap out of. I wish I could name my point. Old Flash. I am proving your point, but I wish I could remember the name of it now. But it was a zombie defense game where you were basically just defending yourself against waves of zombies, and it was very graphically crude, obviously. But that
was it. Like, were you blocky?
The point was it was this. You were blocky. Yeah, you might have played the same one. I can't think of the name.
Did it have a 2-player option too?
It did have a 2-player option. So I'm sure we're thinking of the same one. But it just it reminded me a little bit of that in that it looks like it's focused on arcadey fun. Graphically, it's not it's good certainly, but it's not trying to wow me with that, which I do think, I've talked a lot in the past, few months on this show of like graphics don't do it for me anymore. I always expect too much. When games impress upon me, they're like that. We're going for really good graphics. I think it was Boxhead.
I loved that game.
Boxhead was awesome. If it's still going on, go pause the podcast, go play it right now. I sunk hours into that game. And I'm not saying that was the right thing to do, but it was fun. I like when games go graphically hard, like, and when they impress upon me that like we want this to look very realistic and graphically amazing. I'm just like, I'm ready to be disappointed. This was much more like we're gonna go with an art style that like it still looks beautiful. It has a lot of really vibrant colors. You see a lot of the the zombie arms, things like that, and it's really fun. And it's not going to take itself too seriously, but it's going to focus on really cool gameplay. I was into this. I don't know about the name. The name I struggle with a little bit. Not that I necessarily have a better idea, but DeadCraft. It's like they combined names of other games that were really good. And we're like, yeah, this will play. It just seemed kind of strange to me.
What would you have preferred? Zombie Craft? Or Craft and Zombies?
I mean, Zombie Craft would be better, honestly. Like, you pulled that out of your butt, and I think it sounds better. It sounds a little bit more interesting to me. Yeah, obviously this trailer was a little bit light on like, well, I was going to say it's a little light on plot, but I think that's because this game might not be the kind of game that has a whole lot of plot, which again, I think is fine. I think, but that's, to me, when I see a game like this, like you said, you think PC, and I talked about Flash games, so it makes sense you would think PC. I think Switch, like Switch for me, plot-driven games on the Switch doesn't make much sense to me. I think it's just a game that you can pick up quickly is what I look for on the Switch.
I think there is a plot, and I think it was subtle. And this goes back to really overall, I think the trailer could have used some work. Because with a game like...
It was very short.
Yeah, with a game like DeadCraft, you'd think they'd lean into the crafting elements of it. And you just kind of saw these faraway views of various blobs and swishy moves. And I really wanted to know, like how do you collect all of these zombie parts to make a blob that's somewhat functional? It had arms wailing and things like that. So are you trapping zombies and sticking them together? There's there's this weird crafter in me that really wants to know the gory details, and I mean gory details. It's a zombie game, for crime's sake. Let's get gory.
And there was like, at one point, it was like a zombie gun. Like it was, yeah. And it was flashing by so quickly, it was hard to understand certain things about it. But yeah, you collect, ostensibly at least, you collect zombie parts, you create zombie weapons and or freestanding beings and or appendages, it looks like, for yourself.
Yeah, that game lives and dies on the zany creations. Why wouldn't they lean into it? Especially the zombie gun that just kind of chomps. And I hope it's called a chomp. Anything shy of a chomp is honestly disappointed. And
I think I agree. It lives and dies by that. So the main question becomes just how freeform is that? How many because presumably you're collecting certain parts and then you're combining them in some way, right? But how many combinations are there? That's what forms the basis for any sort of longevity for this game. How long can you play this game boils down to how many different things can you create? Because you're probably going to get a lot of different enemies, but they're going to be stock enemies that eventually will become the same. So what can you do differently to defeat them? That's where the fun comes.
So
looked like there were some pretty interesting boss enemies too. Based on what little we saw, but
again, we only saw them from the top down, and it was so quick. So here's my question to you: based on the brief thing that we saw, is this a day one buy for you? Is this a wait and see?
This is a wait and see. This is a wait and see for the reason I think I just said. I need to know how long, like, what's the playtime on this, and what's the replay value on it? Because again, my perspective on the plot, like you said, there may be a little bit of a plot there. It probably doesn't have a long playtime. It's probably the kind of game, to me, it looked like a game that emphasizes, okay, you can play this through once, and when you finish playing it once, the first thing you're going to want to do is play it again and do it differently. How long or how good can a second playthrough be, I guess, if you're just rehashing a lot of the same combinations you already used? I think that's what it boils down to.
So I'm going to put my Nerdbomber hat on because I know exactly what she's going to say. This game reminded me a lot of Hades. Oh my goodness, that is a great comparison, especially with the view style. Can you elaborate on that? Well,
I thought Nerdbomber wasn't gonna be here.
Oh, sorry, she had to go. She just left. But I'm gonna continue where she left off. So I can kind of see that Hades point, and if they do a similar fashion where you're kind of trapped in this loop, I think that you can get that replayability. But in my personal opinion, with these kind of hoarder games, and we've seen it in Left 4 Dead, a really awesome tool is co-op, especially with this kind of camera view. You're if it's a split screen, or not even split screen, if it's a shared screen, a shared experience, this is screaming couch co-op for me.
Well, again, going back to Boxhead was, and it was a stupid Flash game, but it was shared screen. You can't exit if one person's standing somewhere, the other person can't get too far. Which lends itself to a zombie game.
Can I tell you how slick we were, by the way? We had a wireless and a wired keyboard. We were using different keys so that it works with the multiplayer, but we weren't all up in each other's business because it was serious. Right. You got sweaty. But we had the setup.
Who was you and Nerdbomber did this?
My brother and I.
I was gonna say this game Boxhead had to be 15 years ago.
Shout out to my brother as my Boxhead compadre.
If I Google Boxhead, am I gonna get any? I mean, I'll get something.
Yeah, Boxhead 2. You could still play it.
Boxhead 2 play. Currently still, it's very much going on. Wow, I didn't realize it was still, it makes sense. It was amazing. Boxhead 2 play is awesome. Go check it out.
Here's our review.
Lends itself well. Yeah.
Here's our review. Don't play this. Give it some time, but absolutely play Boxhead 2.
Yeah, well, you have time. You have basically a little less than a month until this game comes out. Another thing I would say about this one too, depending on whether I day one buy it, is the price. I don't think this should be a $60 game. I don't know if it's intending to be that. I would think not, but to me, $30-$40. I don't know. I want your opinion on that as well. But to me, it's not a day one. I don't know if it is for you, but
no, I'm all about Boxhead 2 right now. I'm so hyped for this.
That's the thing about Boxhead 2. Free 99. You go on. I mean, if you can endure an advertisement or two.
I really hope they have devil things too. I really hope now that it's just a complete ripoff and reskin of Boxhead 2.
Of Boxhead 2. The devil's in Boxhead 2. Oh my God, you're bringing me back. I love how this just turned into an advertisement for Boxhead 2, but What's it called? It's called there's Boxhead and there's Boxhead 2 Play, and Boxhead 2 Play is obviously the one where you can co-op. It's the 4th game of the Boxhead series, so there's a lot to dig into here. It's great. I don't know. No notes on Boxhead. It's awesome.
And then next week we'll review Line Rider.
Oh, Line Rider was great too. That should be another secret. We just recorded a secret segment before this, but that should be a next secret segment. Is like the best. No,
we should do Let's Play Flash games.
Did you ever play? And now we're just off the rails. I don't care. Did you ever play? Because I was big into and it was like a huge genre at one point. It might still be the escape room games, the room escape games. Those like. There was this one called Crimson Room.
Those frustrated me so much. Man, I just clicked everything and didn't know why, didn't know what I was doing. Was not a big escape room guy. Hated those.
They had all those like stick figure sniper games. I mean, they just, man. Flash games, and then you had like, the ones that were like park the cars and don't hit any other cars.
And there was the stick figure make your own move, like action sequence.
And then, I did that one. I did... everyone knows QWOP. You played QWOP. QWOP was a big deal for a little bit. It was like a viral Flash game. That was what I would call that. You played QWOP, right?
No. Well, maybe. I'm not remembering what a QWOP is.
So QWOP, it's QUOP. And it's called that because those are the only 4 keys you use in the game. And you have to, like, the Q and the W control the thigh muscles, and the O and the P control the calves.
Oh, there was that running leg,
and you have to run 100 meters, and it's freaking impossible.
Yeah, that game was not fun.
It was the best. It was so addicting because you sucked at it. That was like the whole point. It was like, dude, I'm so bad at this, I have to do it again. And you look up, and it'd be 4 a.m. Flash games are great. DeadCraft is coming May 19th, 2022. Again, to PC, PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and Nintendo Switch. Check out the trailer if you haven't seen it already. It is short, it is light on details, but it paints a pretty fun picture that we may very well be into. So that takes us to the halfway point of the show, the halfway point of the For the Boys episode, as we are calling it. And we're going to shout out one of our boys at this point, Stephen Keller, our Patreon producer, and a knight at our square table. Thank you, Stephen, for continuing to support the show at the knight level on our Patreon. As a result of his support, Stephen gets this producer shout out. He gets access to the monthly secret segment and vlog. And of course, he gets the occasional guest spot on the show and input into the weekly game segment, which unfortunately, Stephen, this week is not happening because we're light on staff, but we're going to hit it just as hard or twice as hard next week. So get ready for that. For any of the details on any of our levels of support on Patreon, you can head over to patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast. There's also a Squire level of support, which is not quite as high as the Knight, but gets you access to the monthly secret segment and vlog. And there's also a page which gets you access to the monthly secret segment. So again, details on all of those tiers can be found at patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast. Thanks again to Stephen. We'll take a short break and we'll come back to talk about Netflix.
Hey there, everybody. Seth Heasley here from the Hugo's There podcast. Every month on the podcast, I have on a guest, and we discuss their choice of the winners of the Hugo Award for Best Novel. So if you're interested in nerdy books and nerds discussing books, head over to hugospodcast.com or search for Hugo's There anywhere you get your podcasts. Thank you so much.
Okay, welcome back. We are joined by a very special guest here in the second half of the episode. Welcome to the show, Nerdbomber. Nerdbomber, you came back. Hello.
I heard it was for the boys this week, and I was like, this can't stand. I have to come in and ruin it.
You said, I got to put a stop to that. Honestly, really smart move on your choice. On your part, I should say. I think we were doing really well without you. Not to.
Okay, then I'll leave. Bye.
No, I'm not like shading you. I'm just saying. I think. Let me put it this way. I think it was going surprisingly well. I don't think the boat was taking on too much water. But it's good to have you back.
I really hope my impression was a fantastic head fake. Like, they were like, "Oh man," and then, "Oh, okay, she's back."
She's back. We made some promises that you'll have to keep on the first half of the show, and you'll have to find out what those are. We're not going to tell you now. We talked about things that we would have loved your opinion on. But you put them on Twitter. We talked about a game. We talked about, what was the first thing we talked about? I already forgot.
Basically, your input to DeadCraft is that it reminds you subtly of Hades. And I thought that was a solid opinion.
Techtic provided... Well, you came on the show. I don't know. Do you remember coming on the show? You came on in the first half very briefly to talk about...
I must have blacked out. Well,
you sounded a little bit different, but it was pretty much you. So we need to talk about Netflix. Now, Netflix has been very in the news recently. It felt appropriate for us to bring it up because they're taking on water, as it were, which is a weird thing, right? Like Netflix, to me, first of all, I don't know how Netflix makes money. I mean, it's not true. I know you have to pay for Netflix. I understand that. But like them not having ads while all other streaming services basically, I guess just Hulu has ads. It's always been a weird situation for me where I'm like, which one is doing it right kind of thing. Right now, it seems like Hulu is doing it right because Netflix is taking on some heavy losses. And I wanted to, the story here is Netflix is canceling some animated projects. The Twits, which is based on a Roald Dahl novel. I used to love Roald Dahl as a kid. And Bone, which was a highly anticipated adaptation from critically acclaimed comic Jeff Smith, or of the critically acclaimed comic from Jeff Smith. I wanted to talk about, let's say you're Netflix and you're a streaming service and you're bleeding. Okay. Where should Netflix be putting its development money? Like, where should they be cutting? Assuming they want to avoid ads and they want to avoid like what they've been talking about for years, which is like policing people sharing accounts, which I don't think can ever happen reasonably. They have to actually cut costs and cut down how much they're spending on developing content. Where do they cut? What do they cut? Is an interesting question because, I think
$600 million budget movies that are just okay.
So that I do think that may be the answer. I'm going to tell you where I don't think they should cut.
Animation.
Well, animation is one. They should not cut animation. If only because I believe BoJack Horseman is like one of their most popular shows ever.
Yeah. So before you switch, I want to kind of focus in on that. The people making the decisions are so out of touch of what is actually popular. They're saying that the animation direction should be focused on animations such as Boss Baby, which, sure, Boss Baby was fine, but let's be honest.
I didn't see it.
Yeah. And the majority of people really watching these animated films are actually adults. And not only shows like BoJack Horseman, but Nerdbomber and I just finished another show, Genlock, and again, that's a very much no children allowed, but it's like great animation style. It's gripping. We watch Avatar, we watch Legend of Korra. All of these shows are adults watching them, and they're gonna focus on Boss Baby. Come on, you guys are so out of touch. You guys need to take a step back and actually look at statistics that mean something and not what you're interpreting them to think they mean.
So The Mitchells versus the Machines was just nominated for an Academy Award. Arguably should have won. It was a fantastic movie. Like I don't think Love and Robots is another animated show on Netflix that I know is super popular. It just seems like... So to me, animation is very popular on Netflix right now. The other thing that they absolutely, and I think they're doing this right, in fairness, they should not cut, but rather they should put a bunch of money into, is their reality content.
Well, reality in general, and maybe I'm speaking
cheap.
out of turn, but yeah, reality television is super cheap. And every time they do a reality show, like Love is Blind is insane. So,
I watched Indian Matchmaker last year. I don't know why, but it's just like the reality shows, and like my fiance is watching Selling Sunset right now. Do you guys know what that one is? It's just like,
oh yeah,
a bunch of people. It's just like it's a bunch of like ladies selling houses in, I think, Orange County. I'm actually not sure, but it's like there's drama and it's a reality show, and like reality shows are, what you're showing up for, and you usually get it, especially with Netflix. And they're super successful. The Circle is another super successful reality show they just came out with, and I'm sure they're going to keep pumping that out. They need to be putting all of their money into that. And the other thing I want to say too, like, you're totally right about the big budget movies. Like, they very often do not hit with those. Like, you could argue The Irishman was a big deal. I think Roma was also theirs. That was a big deal that I think won Academy Awards.
But
one of them.
I don't know if those movies were like super big budget. I guess what I'm talking about,
they're not
are
blockbusters.
Like, yeah, they're not the ones. I feel like they're spending a lot of their money on like the Ryan Reynolds type movies where there's a ton of special effects and CGI. Like I look at The Irishman and yeah, I mean, there's some like, obviously you have to spend money on costumes and they got big names for that and what have you.
Right, the actors.
A lot of them, like I feel like a lot of money now in movie making is spent on, CGI and special effects. And when you have these like grandiose chase scenes and action scenes and Michael Bay explosion type things, I'm pretty sure that's more expensive than if you just have like people around talking.
Can I just say, I love that you can't say explosion without Michael Bay. Good for him. Shout out to Michael Bay.
Michael Bay will go down in history as the master of explosions.
The explosion guy. Yeah. Well, so did you guys see Red Notice? Because I didn't even watch it. And that like they spent so much money on Red Notice. That's so much money.
Well, I heard it was bad. Like as soon as it came out, it like the Rotten Tomatoes score on it was not great. It was like average at best, and I was like, ugh.
Right. I didn't hear it was bad, but like it just there's a huge difference between going to see it in a theater and deciding whether to watch it on Netflix or not, because you can just, I don't know, the decision playing field is different there. And like the same, like I know the Adam Project is supposed to be actually pretty good, but like I don't know, when I think there's a mentality
that was actually
when
decent,
I turn on Netflix,
but it was just like average.
When I turn on Netflix, it's not what I'm looking to watch. It's not. I don't know. Another example, which I did watch, but like it was just memorable enough for me to remember it and to remember that I believe all three of us watched it. Was Project Power. Probably cost them a good chunk of money, and I would say it was forgettable. In spite of the fact that I just remembered it, I would say it was forgettable. So like
literally when
me,
you mentioned it, I went, oh yeah, that was a movie.
When I think about Netflix, where they need to be putting their money is in like what are Netflix's most famous and most popular properties, whether they're still on or not. Because I think of Stranger Things, which is still going on.
Although I saw that the budget on that, and I might be misquoting this number, but I think it was like something like $30 million an episode. And like, if you're hemorrhaging money, that doesn't seem feasible and sustainable either.
It's going to be super popular, though.
I'm curious what the parallels of season 1 to season now is, as far as what the cost is.
A lot more money. We never talked about that trailer, by the way. We'll shunt that to like next week or something, because that deserves an entire segment. But another one I would say, and I never watched this show, but I know it was insanely popular, probably not that expensive to produce, was Orange is the New Black. Like, to me, shows like that, and even shows like Ozark.
Well, Orange is the New Black, like, that was OG Netflix too. That was one of the first originals. People were like, hey, you have to get Netflix. There is some good stuff on here. Exactly.
Their content production name at that point really meant something. And now it means nothing. That's kind of the point I'm making. Like, it's almost like they're overdoing it with things where like, you want to, like, okay, nonfiction reality stuff is one thing, but like in terms of fictional content, shows and movies, I think you want to maybe reduce it to a steady stream such that what you're making actually shows some forethought and actually means something, rather than what they're doing now, which a lot of it's just crapped out. Like, I'm sorry.
They throw a lot of stuff at the wall, and like sometimes you get a Bridgerton, which is super popular, and sometimes you get, I can't even think of a bad show, but I feel like there's bad shows that I watch for a season. I'm like, what is this? And then I never go back to it.
I mean, a stop clock is right twice a day, especially when the clock is as big as Netflix is. Like, a stop clock is right twice a day. There's no doubt about it. But they need to change. And the point I wanted to make, and like this news article, cutting animation, I don't think is the way to do it. If only because also the thing we're not mentioning, like we talked about, like you guys watch Avatar and like BoJack was a big deal, and all these things, Love and Robots. But like there's also like kids make up a huge part of Netflix's audience. Like during the day, especially when the adults are working, the kids are watching Netflix. Well, like it's kind of as simple as that.
They're not cutting animation as a whole. They want to redirect animation to focus on content similar to that of Boss Baby. And so they're going to still hang on to that kids market. But which
is such a weird target. You're right.
I think it's not the majority of animation. I think the majority of animation is us weird adults. We love that stuff.
But also, like, maybe they're not wrong. If I'm remembering correctly, wasn't Mitchell's versus the Machines, wasn't that like kind of a studio production that then they came in and bought over COVID because it wasn't going to have a theatrical release? Like maybe Netflix is saying like, hey, this did really well. And maybe we don't need to be doing all of this first party stuff in-house. Maybe we just wait for the circumstances to present themselves to buy a really good title that's already, got the legwork behind it. We'll know exactly what we're getting and exactly like what we're going to spend for it.
Yeah.
When you're producing something yourself, you don't know what kind of production overages you're going to end up encountering. I mean, that happens in movies all the time without fail, I would say. So like maybe they do now just want to be like, hey, we want to watch like an end product, say this is really good and snatch it up instead.
Yeah, but that to me seems more like a lightning in a bottle situation where they're going to just pay for all of this crap and maybe find one gem or two.
I just wonder, looking at Hulu, looking at Disney Plus, to some extent too, even looking at like Discovery Plus and other, like their vision seems so much clearer right now than Netflix's is. So I understand their kind of thought process behind, okay, we need to like pare down certain things and like try to hone in what we're doing, but I don't think cutting animation is the way to do it. Like I get your point certainly that like they can maybe cut their original animation and use that money to buy, legit good things like Mitchell's versus the Machines was. I think you were right about that, but you got to cut the big movies. I think you kind of hit the nail right on the head from the beginning, and they're not planning on doing that. It sounds like. And that's very strange to me.
They just need to invest in more episodes of Married at First Sight so I can drag Techtic with me on these really long journeys.
We got one episode left.
They're probably working on it.
Also, it's a Lifetime show, and there's like 15, 16 seasons, but right now Netflix only has one available. And let me tell you, I'm running out of episodes to watch.
It's basically gone, yeah. The other thing I will note, too, like another thing, to me, a pillar of Netflix, I have to imagine... I haven't like correlated it in time looking at the graph. When they lost The Office, that probably hurt them pretty bad. Because like when you think about like the amount of time I've spent on Netflix in my life, I don't think it's an overage to say half of it has been on The Office or Parks and Rec, and they lost both.
They lost both at the same time, and then Friends too.
Yeah,
all three
they
just
lost
gone.
Friends. They got Seinfeld, but Seinfeld, it might be like I watched all of Seinfeld on Netflix, but it might be for an older audience that isn't on Netflix as much.
I had this conversation with people that I worked with, and Seinfeld is something, so like The Office, you can put on in the background, you're making dinner, you don't, like, it's something that you can get sucked in if you want to, but it can easily just be background noise as well. Same thing with Parks and Rec. Seinfeld, I feel like you have, like, whether you mean to or not, you end up paying more attention to it than you wanted to, and it's not something you can just easily throw on in the background. So a lot of the plays people were getting out of The Office and Parks and Rec and shows like that were like, hey, I'm doing laundry or I'm doing homework and I need some kind of noise to keep me company, but I can split my attention. Right. I feel like you can't do that with Seinfeld, so they lost that.
Part of it is probably because you've seen The Office many, many more times than Seinfeld. But like for me, The Office was that sort of comfort food kind of thing where like, oh, I've seen this episode 6 times, but I love it, so I'm going to put it on. And like you said, I can phase in and out, and that's not a problem. But I will say, to your point, and I think you're right, like Seinfeld, and I think it's the genius of Seinfeld, but it has to be what you want. Like the quality of the narrative thread that runs through a Seinfeld episode is just different than that of The Office or of Friends or of Parks and Rec, where everything's going to connect at the end in a very specific way that you're only going to understand fully and appreciate fully if you've watched the whole thing pretty attentively. You can miss things. It's also like The West Wing, which is another show that I love, but you cannot not pay attention during that show. It's not possible. But yeah, going back to Netflix, like they seem listless at this point. I'm curious to see what they do next. If they introduce ads, they're going to die. And it's going to be quick. I think that's my theory.
One of their problems,
of that.
What I think where it went wrong. So Netflix, and I'm stealing this off a meme, and I'm doing so unabashedly. I don't know who made the meme originally. I saw it on Reddit. I'll admit that. But basically, Netflix came in, and everyone was torrenting. Not me. Not any of us here. We're upstanding citizens, but people were torrenting, and that's how meme. They were getting content. Meme. And then Netflix basically came in and kicked like all of the torrent sites out because it was like, hey, you can pay this one small fee and get everything you pretty much want. But now there's like all of these different services and people are jumping ship. It's not like you just have your Netflix membership and it's just running year round. You have like 6 services and a lot of times you're bouncing between. You might not sign up for a year. You're going to month it here, then switch to another one for a few months. Because right now, I mean, if you add up all of the different streaming services, you might as well be paying for cable, which is like the antithesis of what people wanted when people cord cutted. So...
Is this the Simpsons meme, or am I thinking of a different meme that's making the same exact point?
It's the
Is
Simpsons.
it Moe's Tavern?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Moe's Tavern. It's a great meme. We'll put it on our show account and credit the person if we can find it. I don't know. I don't know. I can't find it personally, but we'll look for it. It's a great meme. Yeah. What should Netflix do? Should they cut animation as they are clearly planning on doing? Is The Boss Baby or just Boss Baby? Is Boss Baby that good of a movie? Because I don't think so.
Okay, can I just tell a story? So
about how good Boss Baby is.
Friends of ours had just had a child and we went over to their house and she was still like a toddler at that point. Couldn't really, like, I don't think she was speaking, just crawling timidly, like wasn't super mobile or anything like that, but she loved Boss Baby. And so, you know, they had it on at their house while we were eating pizza and just talking because she was watching Boss Baby. And every time we tried to, like, we would loft a question over in Techtic's direction and be like, hey, what do you think? And he would just be lost in
He would
Boss
be like,
Baby.
I'm busy.
Yeah. So
no, I've been there.
It's apparently a good movie, according to Techtic.
I respect that. If a movie's on and if it can hold my attention for 2 minutes, that's it. Don't ask me anything until the movie's over. I feel that. There was a Boss Baby too, wasn't there?
There was,
yeah. Shout out to the Boss Baby, or just Boss Baby. I think it's just Boss Baby. I probably won't watch it, but it's what Netflix is going for, which I feel like is just, that sums up this entire news story and the state of Netflix right now. Let's talk about what we've been up to. It's What Are You Up To Wednesday?
What are you up to Wednesday?
Was that the clip or was that you?
No, that was me in real time.
Because it sounded like the clip. So you've gotten some consistency down on that, which I appreciate. I'm going to go first. I have 2 movies. So I finished my move, basically. 2 movies and a life experience. You know, that's the same old thing. I'm a big fan of Nicolas Cage. That's public knowledge at this point. I watched a movie called Moonstruck. And let me be clear. I came in, I think, 20 to 30 minutes into it. Have you guys seen this movie?
I saw the trailer. Techtic won't let me watch it.
I'm too old to watch it.
I don't think that's true, but please enlighten us.
So it's great. Okay.
Ha!
The premise of this movie is Cher and Nicolas Cage. Well, that's it. I just said the premise for you. They're both Italian. They're in New York. They're in love in their strange way. It is just bizarre. To watching the movie, and I said multiple times when we were watching, I was like, it's like at times it's like if a 3rd grader had seen a Nicolas Cage movie and knew who Cher was and was like, I'm going to write my own movie and they're both going to be in it. Like it felt a little bit like that. It also felt like a fever dream that someone just dreamt and wasn't a real movie. And yet
Isn't
it
that
was a
how
real
most
movie.
Nick Cage movies go?
Well, okay, yes, but like not in this way. And I think the X factor is the fact that Cher was in it. And by the way, not only was she in it, she won the Best Actress Oscar for this movie, which is just wild to me. This movie's worth watching just because it's very strange. It's not a good movie. I don't think it's a good movie, but it's worth watching. In a similar vein, we watched a movie called As Good As It Gets, starring Jack Nicholson and Helen Hunt.
Oh, that's an oldie.
It is. It came out in 1997. One of the few movies where she won Best Actress and he won Best Actor. Not many movies can do that, guys. It was. I would give it a 5 out of 10. It was just like it was very. So the premise of the movie is he is the worst person ever, and also he's 60, and there's a waitress who is literally over 20 years younger than him, and for some reason falls in love with him. There's more to it than that. Greg Kinnear's in it, and he's awesome. And like there are good nuggets to it, and the acting is phenomenal. But the premise, it was weird. On top of the fact that like the age difference between the love interests was kind of gross, so I can't really recommend it. But I've seen worse, I guess is where I'll leave it. But the main what are you up to? I want to talk about is I saw your two beautiful mugs for the first time in a while in person.
Hi.
And Techtic was gracious enough to apply his Techtic abilities to the new house that my fiance and I purchased and help us out with an electrical problem. So they came by and I showed them the new house, and it was fantastic, and I appreciate y'all.
Most importantly, I mean, seeing you was great and everything, but finally got to meet the pets, man.
You met Cooper.
And Charlie, like both of them were
Yeah.
great. I was having a good time with both of them. We're pals.
Cooper barked a lot. That's kind of his way.
But then he came over at one point and was happy getting belly rubs, so he came around. It's
Yeah.
fine.
He's a people dog. One of the Online Warriors mascots. He's a big fan of the show. He's probably listening right now at the door, waiting for me to finish. But yeah, I appreciate you guys coming by. That was fun. Nerdbomber, welcome back to the show. What do you got for us?
So I'm not going to steal the big hurrah of our weekend from Techtic, because I know he's very eager to talk about that. But as I mentioned before, we are still watching Married at First Sight, and we have blown through season 10. And I have some thoughts, and I feel like you haven't seen this, right? Illegal, you have not watched this.
I don't think I've watched a single episode of this. There's other shows like this that I know I have watched. 90 Day Fiancé, I think I've watched some of,
But
which is very similar.
Different-ish, because a lot of the times the 90 Day Fiancé is like they're catfished
met
or
online.
like they met online. Yeah. These are like people who are expertly matched, supposedly. And I'm here to say
And like
the experts are bunk.
Suck.
Yeah, the experts suck.
I also want to say, in order to enjoy
hold
the
on.
show, hang on. In order to enjoy the show,
Yeah.
you can't watch it in episodes. You have to basically turn it on and off based on convenient fade outs.
Yeah, because the episodes are like 2 hours long, which in like Netflix time without commercials, because this was originally on Lifetime, it's more like an hour 40, but it's you're basically watching a movie. So we pick and choose. We don't go by episodes. But one interesting thing I did find out, and again, thanks to Reddit, apparently this was made by the same people who made Love is Blind. Fun fact.
Look, give some credit to the experts. What they're trying to do is very difficult. And I love them for doing it and for trying it.
Yeah, but
I
there's
just want to
there's
throw them a
one
bone.
dude in season 10 specifically who is like very clearly like, so the process here is you get married to a complete stranger. You know nothing about them. You just put your faith in the experts. Then you go on your honeymoon. Then you come back and they give you an apartment, much like Love is Blind season 1. And you live in a shared space that's kind of neutral to both of you. And you like make it your own and then test out your relationship for 8 weeks. Then you come back and say whether you want to, because you're legally married at this point, whether you want to get a divorce or keep sticking it out. And there is one dude in this season, and I'm not going to tell you who, I don't want to spoil it completely, but like he doesn't even like attempt. He doesn't move in. Even halfway through the honeymoon, he's just like, I'm not feeling this. And it just drags on forever. And it's like, this dude clearly has no intent of like,
Right.
and he's like,
If you know, you know, right? You
Well-
should just cut the cord.
but it almost seems like his intention is to kind of promote his business almost and get exposure and celebrity, but like he comes off looking bad, so I think it backfired. And I'm not really clear, like I feel like even just talking to the guy, the expert should have been like, okay, this is not gonna work. Like we're not gonna have you on the show. But
I mean,
they
people
did.
go on for like, I'm pretty convinced that's what Shake did from Love is Blind season 2. He just went on for the exposure. Like, I think there are people who do that. Whether it works or not is another
But
thing.
how do
like
they
you
not
said, I
weed
would
them
imagine
out?
it backfires a lot. These people are cagey. Or they don't weed them out because they're good TV. Sounds like this guy wasn't,
Drama.
but like, you could make the argument that Shake was. I wouldn't, but you could make the argument.
But that's been kind of the majority of what I did this weekend. I mean, it was beautiful out this weekend. The first like kind of taste of spring. We're gonna get snow in the Northeast again in like a few days. So we were outside a lot. I got a little bit of a sunburn. We walked a bunch.
I was gonna say,
we did
I
some
got pretty
yard
bad
work.
sunburn. I was like, one of my arms is bright red. Right.
Yeah.
now.
My
Yeah, so I'm
face,
working through that.
like on lunch today, I went out for a walk, and in that like half an hour walk, my face got burned, and I'm just so confused.
I'm super embarrassed. I got a farmer's tan.
Sunscreen, people. PSA. Do the do.
No, I was just making fun of you guys. I don't burn.
I know you don't. I was trying to turn it back on you and turn it into a PSA. Techtic. It sounds like we're moving over to you for the big weekend event that was teased.
I'm Batman. So we finally watched Batman. And I got to say, It was capital F fine. He was a great Batman, but he was
welcome to the party, man.
Terrible, terrible Bruce Wayne. I really do. The villains were fantastic. Penguin was great. Riddler was great. Even Alfred was great, but Bruce Wayne was...
Alfred wasn't in it. He wasn't in it enough. I agree he was good. He wasn't in it enough. And yeah, I agree that he was a bad Bruce Wayne. I'm glad. Welcome to the party. Like I said, it's just like, and now imagine seeing it in theaters, being super excited about it like a month ago, and then coming out being like, that's it. Because that was my experience. I was like, really? That's all? That's what this was?
I will say it was nice based on your impression of the movie versus ours, it was nice to have the auto-adaptive brightness on the television. Because I was able to see every punch. No problem.
Yeah, I'm jealous of that.
I did like that he was sort of a flawed... He was basically like, if I went and strapped up my costuming, I took it out of the box and put it on and everything and went and farted crime. I know how to fight. I can hold my own. But every now and then I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna fall and hit a bridge or something when I'm in my squirrel suit.
Well, I liked, and I think I mentioned this when I gave my review of the movie. The first fight scene that he's in, he's like taking punches, and you're like, oh. It like sets the tone.
I don't care how good of a fighter you are. If it's 10-1, someone's gonna land a hit, right. And that's what I'm always telling Nerdbomber. When I'm in a scrap and it's 10-1, someone lands a hit. It happens.
He gets into those a lot.
Yeah, it happens all the time. I've seen a few of them. Don't get me wrong, listeners. He always wins, but sometimes it's touch and go. Okay, so capital F fine is the review. Anything more you want to add on that?
Nope, that's it.
No. Okay. Well, as we mentioned, it's a quizless day. Look, sometimes brains need a break. Okay, we go hard here with the trivia and the knowledge, and I need the time. Like I'm backsliding. My record, I'm last right now. I said let's take a beat so I can really like start cranking through Jeopardy test questions or something. Try and figure this out. So next week, I will be taking on. I believe it's Nerdbomber.
No, I'm the host.
As regularly scheduled. You're the host. Okay.
That's why, though, the quiz got delayed today, because I was the host and then I wasn't sure if I could be here. And then I just didn't write one. So here we are.
So next week I will take on Techtic for, I don't know, try and regain my dignity. I think I said that last week, but it's still true. Until then, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Go hit us up there. Tell us whether you like the show, whether you don't like the show. Hit us up on our Twitter handles. We already mentioned those in the midst of the show. And in general, just keep on keeping on. Be kind to each other. And I'll let Techtic take us out with a tech tip.
So the weather's getting warmer. Everyone knows that the bicyclists end up on the road. Just watch out for them. I know sometimes they're out early, but you got to be careful because being on those bicycles, they're probably just too tired because it's a bicycle.
Have a good week, everyone.